Christian feast day it is on October 27th.
Are you spooky in some way?
Not really. It's not quite Halloween yet, obviously.
No, it's
but,
not.
You know,
No.
it's near enough to Willy's up time, and yet obviously this year everything's scary enough. I think we're just kind of
that's fair.
Just not. Just not.
It's fine.
Dear. I mean, I could have gone. Woo! It's Flag Day in Greece.
I mean, the concept of a flag day in general is slightly confusing.
Whoa, I am Navy Day, brackets United States, brackets unofficial, because the official date is October 13th.
So, I mean, is this the way you're going to do all the calendar events this time?
No, of course not. No, of course not. I've got another one. I've got my vampire.
Go on then.
I want to thank your World Day for Audiovisual Heritage, a day chosen by UNESCO to signify the preservation of recorded sound and audiovisual documents.
No.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a very spooky-ish Don't Let's Chat. Hello, I am the spook-free since 03 Ben Baker.
And I'm Phil Catterall. I don't think there's any ghosts, but I'll check.
I mean, if Ghostbusters had used that as a tagline, Ghostbusters, I don't think there's any ghosts.
Ghostbusters, it's probably fine.
It's probably damp. I'm not quite sure they've had the same cultural impact. But this is Let's Chat. This is a programme all about us going through the history of October 27, finding out interesting things, and basically, again, we're just hiding in the past because the present is a terrifying place. And it's nothing to do with Halloween.
No, it's really not.
And we start in 1871.
Right.
This is all about a Democratic leader, William Maguire Tweed.
It's a good name.
But I've picked this because his nickname was Boss Tweed.
Boss Tweed. Like it.
And he was arrested after the New York Times exposed his corruption, which they found out 2 years later was $6 million they stolen from New York.
In 1871 money?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And he was sentenced to 12 years imprisonment. Didn't do it because in 1975 he escaped from jail. Fled to Spain, where he worked as a seaman. Stop it. Caught again in 1876. He agreed to rat out the people and basically be a stool pigeon in order to get a release or at least a very relaxed sentence. The governor agreed to and then said, I had crossed fingers. No, no setbacks. And so sadly, old Boss Tweed died in jail in 1878. And they later found out he was convicted for stealing an amount reckons is between actually 25 and 45 million. But later estimates, possibly 200 million.
Okay. So yeah, that's not as greedy as some, Ben.
What do you mean? Do you mean Mr. Greedy from the Mr. Men? I've seen that documentary. He ate loads. Sausages, jelly with sausages in it. It's brilliant.
It may surprise you to learn, Ben, that Mr. Greedy is not even amongst the most greedy people that have ever lived. For you, I've prepared this, and it just happens to coincide. Top 10 best corruption scandals that there have been. I've done it.
All the best corruptsmans.
All of the best.
A sobering look at bastards, which we're going to start, presumably, at 10.
Yes, number 10, right. Siemens. Did you know, Ben, that not only did German law not worry about bribes being paid abroad, but they were in fact tax deductible for German companies up until 1999. 1999. So apparently you could categorise these bribes as useful expenditures as long as they were not incurred in Germany and there were no actual state officials involved. So you could bribe private individuals, but not people from the state. However, it turned out in 2006 that Siemens had been paying bribes for over a decade to government officials, civil servants around the world, amounting to $1.4 billion worth of bribes.
That's a lot of handheld devices.
Yes, indeed it is. But because Siemens, as well as mobile phones, does big electrical engineering projects, this was obviously attached to the cost of those projects. So people in those affected countries were paying the price of roads, power plants, etc. So they were eventually caught out. Several countries, including the US and Germany, launched investigations and secured a historic sanction of 1.6 billion, which
Bloody
presumably
hell.
will then be passed on to all of Siemens' existing customers.
Number 9!
Number 9. Right. Sani Abacha. I've probably pronounced that wrong, as I often do. So he was a Nigerian army officer and dictator who served as president from 93 to 1998.
Are you telling me there was some sort of corruption in a dictatorship? I refuse to believe.
Indeed. So it was known that he was fairly corrupt. But the full extent wasn't known because it turned out after he died that he had taken somewhere between $3 and $5 billion of public money.
I assume that was just in a massive pillowcase or something like that.
They've still not got it all back. So the US Justice Department a few years ago froze 458 million of those funds that had been hidden around the world. Nigeria's trying to get it back, but companies that are linked to Abacha keep going to court to prevent the money from being returned back. But recently, wow. Jersey has announced that it's putting 268 million into an asset recovery fund that will go back to Nigeria. So that's Jersey, noted tax haven, is going, yeah, no, this is wrong. We should give this back.
I mean, if there's anything that's going to bring Bergerac back, that is definitely the case. Number 8.
Alberto Fujimori, which is a superb name, former president of Peru, who somehow got 2/3 approval rate from his citizens while standing trial for human rights violations, which he managed by using a significant chunk of his country's intelligence service budget to bribe literally everyone. He embezzled 600 million in public funds, ran away to Japan, where he achieved a record. He became the first elected head of state to be extradited to his home country, tried and convicted. So,
now, you see, I don't know a lot about Peru, but if you'd have said he'd have run away to Paddington Station, I would have happily believed that person you were talking about was a bear.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, if the Paddington film had opened with a bear with a sign around his neck saying, "Please look after this bear or my death squads will deal with you," it would be slightly closer to the story of this guy. But
Number 7.
Ramzan Kadyrov of Chechnya had set up essentially a fund, in quote marks, which functions very much as a bribe to keep your job. So in Chechnya, you pay an unofficial tax into this fund, which is controlled by the head of the republic, which does get used for things like building homes and building mosques, and it's provided international aid. But also it seems to have paid for his 35th birthday party and the celebrities that attended it, a $2 million boxing session with Mike Tyson, and 16 motorbikes that he gifted to a nationalist biker gang.
No, let's just do 6. Let's do 6.
Tunisia.
All of it?
Well, kind of. If you go to Tunisia, Ben, you cannot get a Big Mac. Do you know why you can't get a Big Mac in Tunisia?
Because everyone's eating that one where it's 2 bits of chicken as the sandwich.
That's KFC. It's a different thing. Thing.
Yeah.
Because the McDonald's franchise was awarded to a business that didn't have any connections to the ruling family, and the government stopped the fast food chain from entering the country. So,
really?
Yeah, from 1987 to 2011, President Ben Ali came up with laws that meant companies needed permission to invest and trade in certain sectors. So he just shut down stuff that was not part of his inner circle. It doesn't say here that Ben Ali was scared of clowns, but I think it's reasonable to assume.
All grimaces. They might not even have a word for grimace. Number 5, Uncle Grimacy.
The Ukraine. Former President Viktor Yanukovych had a great big mansion, 137 hectare estate. The mansion included things like an ostrich farm,
I mean, standard
golf course, private zoo, and
ostrich golf,
full-size Spanish Galleon replica. Yeah.
Now,
now, naturally, all of this was basically nicked from the state. Allegedly made $40 billion in state assets disappear, and Ukraine's only covered $1.5 billion of them.
It's not real at this stage when it gets to that level. It's just not real.
It's not real unless, it's for paying for massive infrastructure projects, or apparently for the owner of Amazon to go to the moon. I don't really understand why.
Ah, dear. Number 4.
Venezuela. This is essentially a currency change scam. This is a massive scale version of, swapping money around in a till. So only certain people can exchange currencies at the official rate in Venezuela. The official rate of exchange from US dollars to Venezuelan bolivars is 1 to 10. However, that's nowhere near what anyone else thinks Venezuelan bolivars are worth. So you can go on the black market and buy them at 100 to 1. So a bunch of government officials went and bought millions and millions of bolivar for X amount, and then traded them on the official exchange for X times 10 amount.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's...
Here you go. Here's some worthless money.
I mean, yeah, it's like saying, no, there you go, there's a tenner. I know it has Darren Day on it, but I can assure you it is very legit.
The 10 has Darren Day on. The 20, the 50, and the 5s all have the fiancées of Darren Day on.
Number 3.
Number 3, right. This I can't say this one, but I'm going to try it anyway. Teodorin Obiang, who is from Equatorial Guinea. He's got an Instagram account which celebrates luxury living, showing off his mansions, $1 million worth of Michael Jackson memorabilia, and supercars. Guess how he pays for these things, Ben?
Is it stealing horrendously?
Yes, it is. Equatorial Guinea has the highest per capita income in Africa, but 3/4 of its population lives in poverty. Now, if you do the maths... That is, let's see, morally repugnant.
Yeah.
So since 1979, the Obiang family has stolen billions of dollars, basically. It's caught up with him several times. The US Department of Justice prosecuted him for money laundering, seized $30 million worth of assets in 2014. The French authorities found him guilty of embezzlement and confiscated $35 million worth of assets. And Switzerland seized 24 of his supercars.
Oh, but how many of these Spanish Galleons did they get? Number 2.
Number 2. I thought we'd go to America for this one. The Teapot Dome scandal. Early 1920s, 1921 to 1923. Secretary of Interior, get ready, Albert Bacon Fall.
No one's more upset than Albert when
his bacon falls.
Fallen bacon.
No one wants fallen bacon. Whenever I drop bacon on the floor, I say, "Oh, Alberts."
Yeah, I say, "Oh, Richard."
Do you?
Who was a fallen bacon?
Oh, I suppose
the cocaines in the 90s.
Albert Bacon Fall, right. So he leased some petrol reserves at Teapot Dome in Wyoming, which is a place, not a literal teapot in a dome. There was no competitive bidding process. Bacon Fall took some bribes from the oil companies and became the first presidential cabinet member to go to prison. I certainly hope he's not the last.
And the number 1 top corruptsman style event-based situation is...
right, Lebanon. We all like Lebanon.
By the Human League, yeah.
Indeed. Since 2015, Lebanon has had a real problem with rubbish. So there's rubbish bags everywhere. There's extreme stench. There's water contamination. Extreme stench. So Beirut and Mount Lebanon's main waste disposal company just stopped picking the rubbish up.
Isn't this a Simpsons plot?
It's not far off. The company had been a monopoly since the 90s. It was forced to close an overflowing landfill.
Good.
Which was used for 12 years longer than it should have been. And then it didn't have anywhere to put the rubbish, so it just stopped collecting it, whilst also continuing to be paid for it.
Oh, God.
So that's good. Now, the reason that I've left this one till last, Ben, is because the scandal provoked a popular movement called You Stink, which called for the government to clean up its streets and corruption problems. Who stinks now? Lebanon is the answer, Ben.
Yeah, you could take as many goats as you like into Lebanon for ball games. They wouldn't even bat an eye.
Hooray!
Oh, dear. And that is the most corrupt stinkus in time of pastness. Thanks. Words. 1925, water skis were patented by Fred Waller.
Oh.
I'd like to know. And we continue with the inventions in 1938 as DuPont announced its new synthetic polyamide fibre, nylon.
That's a good name.
Created by the even better named Wallace Carruthers.
Good.
The original name was No Run, but then someone said, they do run. And so they swapped the vowels around to be Neuron, which then they thought sounded like a nerve tonic.
So I was going to say.
So it became Nilon. They put a Y in it to look continental and interesting for their new product. And clearly, very successful. You ask any man with a pencil mustache in a 1940s drama / comedy, he has got a pocket full of that shit. Personally, I would have called them Jimmy Neutron.
I didn't think I'd say this, but do you think the robot could interrupt us with something, Ben?
People, listener question incoming.
Thank God.
If you want to send in a question, you can do that. You can send an email to don'tletschat@gmail.com or use speakpipe.com/don'tletschat. No one's used the speakpipe as we record this chat. I don't understand what's apprehensive or upsetting people about that. I can't understand why they have.
I think it's because it's called SpeakPipe, and you keep saying things like "speak into my pipe."
It's real. I promise it's real. Anyway, question slot.
Dear Ben and Phil, everybody knows that Steve Guttenberg's best film is 2002's P.S. Your Cat is Dead, but apparently he made some films in the 80s. I was wondering if you could search your specific Guttenberg records and tell me what was the best film he made between 1984 and 1987. Thanks so much for your attention to this. Yours sincerely, Paul, Beatles Please, Abbott. P.S. I am writing this in my own blood.
Oh, well, now you're asking. I mean, you know, obviously, when you think of the pantheon of people who were in police academy films but left after 4 of them, you know, it's a hallowed ground.
Well, I mean, I think Paul's been canny here because 84 to 87 does contain Steve Guttenberg's full police academy run. Would you like to come on a journey with me through the 84 to 87 times of Steve Guttenberg?
Gutten journey.
Yeah.
Let's get on the Gutten-bus. Toot toot. So how many films did you say he did in that period?
He did 11 films.
That's not bad. That's not bad going.
Well, you say it's not that bad, but 4 of them are Police Academy films. So he left after 4, and they really cranked them out as well. They did 1 a year between 84 and 87, which I imagine was enough for Steve Guttenberg to go, you know what, I'm all right. I've had enough now.
It's like, you know, when you shut your eyes and you see Bobcat Goldthwait pretending that's his voice.
Indeed. So let's go through. So 84 Police Academy, first one, which for all its faults was at least doing something a little bit risque at the time.
Yeah, it's a solid 7 out of 10.
Yep. 85 Police Academy 2.
I reviewed this for an episode of John Rain's Smirch Pod.
Oh yeah.
And it's a mess. It's literally, you can tell it's like come out very, very quickly after the original because it's like, it's just stuff happening. There's a vague plot. There's like a gang which Bobcat Goldthwait's controlling. And then obviously they like him so much as a character, he just goes, oh, I'm good now, and joins in Police Academy 3.
Yeah, we're skipping ahead. We've got 2 more 1985 films to get through, Ben, before we can talk about Police Academy 3. Cocoon and Bad Medicine.
Oh, I do not want any of Steve Guttenberg's Bad Medicine, thank you.
I mean, Cocoon, notable for the fact that Wilfred Brimley is in it being old, and he only died this year. That was 30 years ago at this point.
Yeah, it's also notable for nothing. Literally nothing.
You know what's worse than Cocoon? Cocoon 2.
Cocoon the Return,
yes.
I believe. He's back. It's not a repeat. It's TV Cocoon.
So yeah, Bad Medicine, I hadn't even heard of.
Nope.
I'm checking Wikipedia. It was criticised for its negative ethnic stereotypes. So let's move on.
Okay, what did you do in 86?
Police Academy 3, back in training, as we've established.
Yeah. Anything else?
Short Circuit, which I believe was criticised for its negative ethnic stereotypes.
I can't understand which character that might be. Oh dear.
And you've got another you've got a Police Academy connection in Short Circuit.
Oh, that's right, because Police Academy 4 is when they're all replaced by sassy robots.
No, G.W. Bailey, the guy that plays Harris, who plays basically Harris in this, except
he plays a jerk in that.
He's a security guard, basically, yeah.
Can move on quickly.
We can. So 1987, we've got... So Three Men and a Baby is in there.
Directed by...
Leonard Nimoy, yes.
I believe. And what's weird is that there's a German version I've seen in the 90s of the Three Men and a Baby story with Michael Winslow in.
No.
Yeah.
I refuse.
And it's called Zartlich Chaoten, but the English name is Three Crazy Jerks. Three chaotic, unlucky fellows will try anything to get the money together for a baby, of which any of them could be the father. So I think if it's not a direct version, it's very, very loosely based. But yeah. And there is a sequel, which apparently translates to Lovable Zanies 2.
Well, good.
In Lovable Zanies 2, three chaotic, unlucky fellows travel back in time.
That's a very loose sequel.
To prevent the conceiving of their sinister boss. So I'm thinking it might not be that much of a direct version of it. It's still quite close.
Anyway,
back to the Guttenberg bus.
Yes. So there's The Bedroom Window, which is a neo-noir film.
Oh, so he went, right, I'm going to do serious stuff now.
He did Surrender, a comedy film starring him, Sally Field, Michael Caine, Peter Boyle, and Iman.
That's a hell of a cast.
It really is, considering... I'm assuming it must be dreadful if neither you or I have never heard of it.
No, not a clue.
And then we've got left Amazon Women on the Moon.
Amazon Women on the Moon. I love that film.
You're a big fan
It's a very uneven film because it's a sketch comedy film, obviously.
Yeah. But
it's just one of those that BBC One seem to bang out a lot at like midnight.
That leaves us with his final 1987 film, Police Academy 4: Citizens on Patrol, which is the Police Academy film I've seen the most often, I think.
Yeah, I think I've probably seen it more as well.
I think it's the one of the ones that approaches being family friendly much more than the others do. I got a shout out on Radio 1 because of this film. It was the late 90s, and they were talking about Sharon Stone's film The Muse. They were saying that it was her first comedy film, and I emailed in to say, technically, Police Academy 4 counts as a comedy, and she was definitely in that. So they did correct themselves. I think it was when James King was doing the film stuff on Joe Wiley's show.
Okay.
So yeah, that's.
So do I have to pick one?
I think we've got to say what was his best film from that period, and I think it's Three Men and a Baby.
I think it's Three Men and a Baby because it was a fun film, a family film, but also they managed to do it whilst working through the tragedy of that young boy who died on the set and whose ghost can be very clearly seen behind some of the actors, and it's not a cutout of Ted Danson.
I mean, that's...
All of these films are just, they were just there.
They were just there. They were. You're right.
The best one is Surrender.
That none of us have seen or heard of until today.
We can't be as disappointed by it, but as we have by the films we've seen.
I don't make love before the first date.
It's about money. It's about time for a romantic comedy like Surrender. Sally Field.
You're a weird person, aren't you?
Michael Caine.
Pent up.
Steve Guttenberg.
You're insensitive, immature.
So what? It never bothered you before?
Surrender.
I always end up in embarrassing positions with you.
Lucky streak.
Rated PG.
And we stay in the mid-80s for our next historical happening, which was quite big at the time. I remember there being quite a lot of fanfare. As in 1986, BBC One finally put a daytime service out.
Wow.
After years of just like, basically, you just know until about 4.
That is
like
distressingly late that happened.
Well, I suppose, looking back at what's happened since, yeah, it does seem that, because, this is a lot of work. It's a lot of stairs.
Can I not just have a nap?
Yeah.
I approve of the idea of telly having a nap. I'm fine with that.
Back then, I was so infused on more telly. Oh, more telly. And actually, looking back, no telly is all right. Experience of nothing. It's fine. But for those who are now very au fait with what BBC One put on during the day, which a lot of people became aware of this
about 6 months ago, yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't all Dominic Littlewood bellowing and basically people saying these people will come, smash your window and shit on your carpet if you don't buy a bigger lot. It's just all terrifying. It's all horrible on daytime. But back then, it was a little bit different. It took them a while to get their feet under the table.
Right.
As we're going to find out as we go through that first day's daytime schedule.
Hooray!
It started at 9:05 with a one-off documentary called Who's a Pretty Girl Then?
Mm-hmm.
In 1983,
Yes.
19,000 girls aged between 3 and 9 were entered for the Miss Pears 1983 competition. Sorry,
What?
there's a big space
No,
there.
it's very funny that you did that. Yeah, it's good.
The 6 finalists spent 2 days in London waiting to discover which of them will be chosen as Miss Pears. Don't talk
Miss
about that.
Pears.
Yeah. And take home the £1,000 prize money. So I'm guessing that was a repeat, but it was still like let's put something sort of enriching on in the morning.
But was this like sponsored by Pears? What's the...
I assume back then people were still eating soap, as we'd established last week.
Oh wait,
but...
Pears soap. I thought it was like literal pears. Look, don't...
Ian Pears of the Pear Magnet.
I want you to remember, Ben, that during the 80s, you still got adverts for milk as well as for lamb, just the general concept of these things rather than any specific brand. So the idea that there was an advert for just pears is not beyond the pale.
He doesn't say. I'm actually guessing that, to be fair. I'm assuming it was pear soap. It could have just been like they came out in a pear costume.
Exactly. This is my point. It's technically possible.
It is. Anything's possible. And we continue the possibility at 9:45 with 1 in 4, a magazine programme about disabled people, their families and carers, which I imagine was boring if you're disabled.
Yeah.
Boring if you weren't.
Yeah. Is it that 1 in 4 people at that point, or indeed now have some form of disability? I don't know.
I assume so. We could ask the person at 10:25. Oh no, it's Philip Schofield.
What's he doing here?
He's doing the birthday greetings and introducing Play School,
Right.
which was presented by that classic Play School host, Stuart McGuigan, although Carol Shell came on as a guest.
As someone who has, I have 2 children, I have relied on the existence of the CBeebies channel as well as the CBBC channel. The idea of having to wait until 10:25 for anything to come on is horrific.
And you got Play School, whose story was The Surprise from Frog and Toad All Year,
right,
by Arnold Lobel. And then Henry's Cat.
Oh.
In the slot where now Dominic Littlewood bellows at a window.
They're going to nick your stuff. They're going to nick it.
They're going to get it all.
It's not even a programme. It's just like security camera footage of Dominic Littlewood bothering people.
Yeah, and then what's his says? Martin from Homes Under the Boss Face.
Homes. Something about homes under a thing. Roof.
Yeah. We see they needed that in 1986 as they had 5 to 11.
Right.
5 to 11.
I mean, it's quite heavily numbers based. This lineup, isn't it?
It really is. It was a thought for the day with Dora Bryan.
Okay.
It was basically a boring, vaguely religious
Yeah.
thing, which I believe our friend Tim Worthington has written about on his blog. You'll have to search for that.
He covered the 5 to 11 stuff a little while ago, didn't he? Yeah.
He did. 11 o'clock was a Gardener's World special with Geoff Hamilton, which is an oxymoron.
What is it? What you saying?
I mean, I was. My dad used to make me. Well, he didn't make me watch Gardener's World. It was like, if you want to stay up, it's Gardener's World. It was like that before the comedy program at 9 on a Friday.
Oh yeah, it was, wasn't it? I used to catch the end of it fairly regularly. Yeah.
Yeah.
When I used to work at Game, which I remind you was between 2000 and 2004. One of our most popular selling items was Geoff Hamilton's garden designer, which is interesting because he died in 1996.
I was going to say, it was long gone by then, wasn't it?
Oh, yes. And he was still on the front of the box with a spade and a big grin. So
that sounds more unsettling than it should be.
It really, yeah.
One of the ones that did survive in this slot for a long time, at 11:30, Open Air, which was your chance to talk back about the programmes with the people who made them. 12:25, Star Memories. Each day for the next 2 weeks, Nick Ross asks the stars what their favourite television memories are. Today, of course, being 1986, he talks to Sue Pollard and asks if she knows any celebrities that might have anecdotes. Can he give us Ted Bovis's number? At 1 o'clock, it's the 1 o'clock news.
Sensible.
Which is very helpful. Genome, which obviously provides listings for all the BBC stuff for many, many years, lists the contributors. And it's put unknown Martin Lewis and unknown Weather Michael.
Oh, good old Weather Michael. He was always my best one on news.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure where the fish bit went, but yeah, the Weather Michael. That's what we knew him as. And then at 1:25, well, hold on to your trousers as we're about to meet the Neighbours for the first time. Yes, Neighbours finally made it to British TV. And in this first one, we meet the Neighbours. And Danny Ramsey's recurring nightmares cause concern when the happiest day of Desi's life turns sour.
Oh, no.
Now, I remember what happened there. I don't know if you do.
I don't.
But basically, there was a stripper
at
his stag do.
Okay.
Which was Daphne, who he later married.
Right.
And then died horribly and really upsettingly.
Yeah.
After that, Bric-a-Brac, the Seesaw programme, The Close Show repeat, an Unneeding Line repeat.
Wow.
And episode 1 of a sitcom called Valerie, which had premiered on March the 1st in 1986 in America. And this was a Valerie Harper sitcom. She'd been very famous as Rhoda.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And she basically played a mother who was trying to juggle her career with raising 3 sons and an absent airline pilot husband. Basically, she said, hang on, this contract is bullshit and I want to sort this out. And they went, okay, then kill the character off. Fired her from the series following contractual disputes. So they renamed it Valerie's Family.
Right.
And then later, the Hogan Family.
Okay, I mean, interesting.
And then it was old kids' programmes. So that concludes daytime TV as it was in 1986.
Well...
our final story today comes from 1988, and it's just a little story, a fun story at the end. You're like, and finally, kind of thing. Hustler magazine publisher Larry Flint allegedly offered a hitman $1 million to kill Playboy magazine founder Hugh Hefner, publisher Walter Annenberg, Penthouse publisher Bob Guccione, and Frank Sinatra.
Well, that's I feel like that, you'd be getting a bargain if you got all of those for a single payment, wouldn't you?
For $1 million, it's pretty much, bang on bargains. But the $1 million was never paid, however, as a reported hitman, Mitchell L. Werbel, died of a heart attack in December 1983 after he received the check from Flint, allegedly.
I like that you said hitman. Like Spider-Man.
He was a hitman. Werbel called himself an advisor to the Green Berets in Vietnam and a retired general of the Royal Free Afghan Army, according to promotional material
Wow.
from his counter-terrorism firm, Psionics Inc. Basically, yeah, they could never prove it because this guy died. But a publicist for Frank Sinatra said he was en route to Reno and therefore she was unable to contact him, but would leave a message at the hotel asking him to call. So we'll never know what Frank thought about the man who done, you could see lassies' fannies in magazines.
Good.
We'll never know. We'll never know. But it's a lovely place to end this week's episode on. No time to talk about 1998, Charles Hawtrey dying.
Yeah.
1992, where Tipper Gore, wife of the future VP, of course, admitted to covering the clock on her VCR with black tape so she wouldn't have to look at it blinking.
Good.
And no time to talk about 2016, in which a letter John Lennon wrote to the Queen explaining why he was returning his MBE was found tucked in a record sleeve in a car boot. Apparently, the owner took the document to a valuation day and discovered it was worth £60,000.
Wow.
And presumably it said in crayon, "Piss off, Queen! I am John Lemons." Brackets Beetle.
Oh, dear.
Sadly, we can't talk about them, as it's the end of the show. Thank you again for listening and telling people, sharing this on Twitter. All that stuff helps us immensely.
It does, it really
and all
does.
those people who help us a little bit further by chucking £3 at us a month for Patreon, patreon.com/don'tlet'schat, where they get these episodes a week early. And, it's nice just to have you aboard as we sail ever closer into death. Doom. I don't know.
Good.
I wanted to say Gutten Doom. No,
I don't know where you're going with this.
I've no idea. I've lost it. I've completely lost it. So until next time, I have been Nylon.
And I have been the final 2 holes of a golf course before I die.
Good spooks. Like, because it's Halloween a bit.
Yeah, no. It's
Just stay indoors.
Yeah, pretty much.
Goodbye.
Bye.
And no time to talk about 2016, when a letter John Letter wrote. John Letter?
John Letter. Did he invent the letter, Ben? John Letter.
No, that's Ian Letter.
With his friend Keith Envelope. Was that? And Brian Stamp. They took the whole thing to Ken Post Office to sign off on it. Come on, Ben.
Steve, fuck off.
What did he invent, Ben?
These fingers. Right.